the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union. And now, your hosts.
Hello, it's Matt Mallory.
And Klint Macro. Welcome to Meet the Pressers. This is our new show, right, Matt? A new chapter in life.
A new chapter, yes, sirree, Bob.
Meet the Pressers. This is going to be a safe place for us and for all kinds of people that want to tune in. We're going to talk about training and education, a little bit on products and gear and different equipment that might be available to instructors and people who decide to use a firearm for personal defense or other items as well. Definitely. And we also are going to talk about politics and activism, all these things that we generally aren't encouraged to talk about.
It's taboo.
Yeah, but I think it's important. As a well-rounded, educated, law-abiding citizen, we need to be active politically. That doesn't mean you need to go to a rally and wave a flag, perhaps, but keeping an eye on what's happening in your state capitals, what's happening in your cities, what's happening nationally, and people will trip all over themselves at the NRA show to go touch the new SIG, but try to get them to send an email or call their legislator when they're trying to push through a bill that might affect their ability to even own that gun doesn't make any sense to me. So we're going to talk about that and try to educate you at least on what we can find federally and in New York and here in Pennsylvania, and encourage you to be active politically. That's important. And that's going to be part of what we talk about in this show.
Yeah, we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear what other things you want us to talk about, what other segments of those individual things that Klint just mentioned that you want us to talk about. You guys are going to drive it like they do on Mythbusters. Klint and I have talked about this at Mythbusters. You make the show. You guys telling us what you want us to say here, product reviews, stuff like that. When we do shows, we'll be in the USCCA Expo. Both of us will be down there teaching and helping out at the ranges there. For the USCCA coming up in May. So while we're there, if there's certain things, if you want to be on the show, we're going to be doing some filming there on the show, of the show there at the Expo. So keep that in mind and just give us as much information as you can so that we can make the best show that you'll want to check in on and spread the word for us.
Absolutely. This show is going to be geared towards our fellow law-abiding citizens. Amen. Whether you're your own family first responder, an educator, a police officer, a housewife, whatever. If you're a law-abiding citizen and you have any interest in these topics, please tune in and bring your friends with you.
Most definitely. So why don't we start with a little intro as far as each of us, Klint, and get the people, the new viewers and listeners into a little bit more about us.
That's right, because I have a crowd and you have a crowd, and they probably don't know each of
together.
Us. That's right. I have a crowd. I can guarantee I pack them in by the five. That's how big my crowd is.
I've got a course tomorrow. I've got 52 people.
Oh, cool.
So I'm excited about that. That's not the biggest one I've taught, but it's definitely going to be fun. And
is that going to be a 52-to-1 instructor ratio in the firing line? How's that going to work for you?
It's all classroom, thank God.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a New York people to get their pistol license in the state. So it's a 4-hour handgun safety course, all classroom, all lecture, pass around different parts and pieces of guns and such like that, and ammo boxes and casings. But yeah, no live fire, not 52-to-1. That would be irresponsible, and I might get my credentials revoked if I did something like that.
Of course, and I don't insinuate that you would actually.
No.
So we both we spend a lot of time training and educating our fellow citizens, and I can speak for myself. It's more of a full-time gig for me now as it is with you. Yeah. Why don't you tell us your background and how you got into doing this?
Oh, geez. Okay, so I started hunting as a kid, BB guns, frog gigging as a kid, stuff like that. Just good old outdoors, whatever was fun. Sun came up, outdoors. Sun went down. My mom wanted me home. I mean, that's kind of how I grew up, hunting and such. Went into the military. So it got more advanced into firearms, rifles, hand-to-hand combat, stuff like that. And then after the military, I went into restaurant management, which is kind of odd. But in high school, I also did electronic technology at BOCES. I got a certification in that. So it was kind of the electronics portion, which I am doing now, obviously, in one of my businesses. Fast forward after the restaurant business, I started my own tech company about 20 years ago. And during the years of doing the tech company, I was teaching people how to use computers. I was an adjunct professor at a couple colleges, actually doing work there, teaching students in the class how to put computers together, how to troubleshoot them, how to fix them, repair them, upgrade them, etc. From there, I moved into wanting to find something. After I got out of the military, I wanted to find something that I could do that was military related. I was missing that part in me, and that's where Civil Air Patrol came along. I was able to volunteer my time with the auxiliary of the United States Air Force, and at one of the wing conferences, I actually seen a cadet with a NRA rifle badge on, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So I asked her, how she got it, etc. Come to find out, it was the only outside agency allowed a badge or a ribbon from any outside agency. That was the only one that was allowed. So ended up looking into that, found out the curriculum, hired a couple NRA instructors, I think 3 or 4, and we put a small class on. At that point, I thought, I could probably teach this curriculum. It seems pretty good. I like it, and I've got the experience, background with the military, hunting, etc. So right about that time, I got my hunter ed certification to start teaching hunter education courses in the state. Ended up getting the rifle instructor course shortly after that. At that course, they said the Boy Scouts need a shotgun instructor, so I went and got my shotgun instructor certification. At that course, the training counselor, very good salesman, at that course he said, yep, we got a pistol one coming up. Do you want to get your pistol instructor certification? I'm like, yay, sounds good.
He got you. Zzz,
yeah,
he got
it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and then right about that time, I got on, right after that, actually, after I got my pistol instructor certification, I got on the list for Onondaga County to be able to teach the handgun safety course for the county. That was a funny story. I called down and said, I'm a pistol instructor, and I'd like to teach the course to my wife so she can get her pistol license. Is that okay? And the guy goes, well, yeah, I approve it. Yeah, that's fine. I'm like, okay, well, what does it take to teach the general public the course? He's like, well, send me your credentials. I sent him my credentials. He goes, yeah, okay. A week later, he goes, send me the curriculum. I'm like, putting the curriculum together in record time, sent that to him. And about 2.5 weeks later, I was on the list and I taught my first course. Neat story as well. At the club that I'm teaching at tomorrow, many years ago, is the same club that I taught my very first handgun safety course and actually started making a profit in this industry.
That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, just kept adding on more certifications. I'm a classroom junkie, range junkie. I always like to learn from other instructors. I encourage my students to take classes, not just from me, but from other instructors, because it's a perishable skill. And if they're not out there continuously practicing and training, then it will degrade, just like riding a bike degrades. So fast forward,
Absolutely.
my tech company, I've kind of like you'll allude to, as far as your audio business, the recording business, is kind of gone to the wayside. I'm still doing some. I've got some clients that I've been doing work for many years, and but the 20 years of doing the tech industry has been overshadowed now by the 6 or so years of me doing firearms instruction, and now traveling the country with doing firearms instruction and being pro staff for Laser Ammo and Mantis and USCCA and such. It's really been a blessing, and I love it. I love the technology industry too. It's always changing. Firearms industry really doesn't change as much, but there is a lot of different ways to present things, and I think that's what is one of the big allures to me, is to learn a different way of saying something or presenting something to a student that might not get it if you just showed it to them in black and white. You maybe got a hands-on, maybe you've got to show a video, props, etc.
Well, that's kind of why we started this too.
Yeah,
to give us more avenues to help educate our fellow citizens.
Yeah, most definitely. So
yeah, and you and I met first with USCCA, right? Is that where we first met?
Yeah, I think it was, because I think it was the USCCA at one of the shows. I think you were at one of the booths, and I had heard about you or seen some of the videos you've done for the NRA and USCCA. So that kind of I just made it a point, I think, to say hi to you, and yeah, I think that's how we originally. And then this came about because of the course that you hosted, the UTM, last month, which was good.
Yeah,
great, awesome. Love that course.
Yeah, we had Jeremy Hassenkamp from UTM come out and put on his level 1 and level 2 instructor course, which is fantastic. It was a great opportunity.
Yes.
But you had done a show before with a previous co-host.
Yep.
And you had consulted with me on what equipment to buy for the audio side of it, and you put some money into that and some time and effort and energy. And when that stopped happening, I thought, man, you need to utilize that asset, repurpose it. And people have been telling me for years, why don't you do a show? And I thought, well, hey, this is maybe a time to do that.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Most definitely. It's tough. It would be tough to do it by yourself, and that's why, having a co-host, the yin and the yang, the being able to, the pitter patter and the going off of each other, that really makes the show, I think. And it's, you got to have like-minded people and people that have somewhat different backgrounds, audio, computers. Having that as a background too is a foundation or something we can build off in a different aspect.
Absolutely, military and law enforcement, civilian. That's another a way to look at it too.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about your background. I see all your audio equipment in the back there, and I obviously am curious, as all the viewers and listeners are, to know how you went from audio and visual, or the audio sense,
actually,
into firearms.
This is just a backdrop like they have at Walmart.
Just,
like when you see the
cardboard.
Hawaiian sunset, this is just a backdrop.
It's all cardboard, right? Just painted cardboard?
Yeah, with little LED lights in it. No, actually, I grew up in north central Pennsylvania, up in the mountains. So there you get a gun before you can ride a bicycle. And so I grew up around firearms. It was just part of life. I actually took a firearm to school once, and the principal was like, hey, what do you got? Keep it in your locker.
Right.
We were going hunting afterwards. That was a different time, granted, and going to north central Pennsylvania is somewhat of taking a step back in time. But while I was there, growing up, my family had a country band. And we were the only band around, so we played everyone's weddings, everyone's birthday party and stuff. And I learned about recording during that time. And I came to Pittsburgh. At the time, there were some commercial studios there, and I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh and kind of decided that audio production was going to be where I wanted to focus my attention to. Went out to Los Angeles, worked out there for 14 and a half years, working in the music and film industry. And while I was there, I started teaching at Los Angeles Recording Workshop, teaching how to mic up drums and produce records and speak guitar player to get a good performance out of them. And my best friend at the time, and he's still my best friend, Torrance, he at the time was an armorer, worked in Hollywood as an armorer. So he would bring Christian Bale to the range and teach him how to run a carbine, so he looked like he knew what he was doing on camera. And so when he would go to the range, he'd ask me to come along with him, and me and a few other guys that he had worked with. And one time, one of them brought their wife with him and said, hey, teach her to shoot, because I don't want to teach her, or she won't listen to me. We've heard these kind of things before.
Yep.
So I enjoyed her attention. She was a very attractive woman, but I got her teaching her grip and stance, and she was starting to punch paper pretty well. And one of them said, hey, you ought to become an instructor. And I said, gee, how do I become an instructor? I am not from a law enforcement military background. I thought that you had to be in order to be an instructor. I'm like, well, no. And they explained about the NRA programs, the civilian ratings. And so I found a training counselor in L.A., Mike Farrow. Because of him, he kind of put me off on my path. And Mike, his day job was he was a recording engineer. He records all of the scores for the Coen brothers and a few other big-time composers in Hollywood. So we had that in common. And when I moved back to Pennsylvania in 2010, my wife and I decided we wanted to come back home to PA to raise our son. The Sportsman's Club I joined, and then I drew a circle around it, and that's where I bought my house in the radius of that club, because I love the club. But at the time, we were teaching classes once a week, full NRA classes, and so I got a lot of time there. And training counselor program was on the road in 2013, and that's when I became a TC for NRA. And at that point in time, I decided to really just kind of dedicate time, effort, and energy to it as a business pursuit. And I was doing pretty well at it. And one day, one of my students said, because of what you taught me, I will never be a victim again.
Amen.
And that's when it really clicked in my head about the responsibility I had, the leadership role that I was taking on. And so I kind of looked at that as God putting a door in front of me and saying, hey, go through here. And since that time, it's just grown and grown and grown, and things have been happening. and I'm now moving more into a larger regional, potentially national scale as far as my influence. I owe a great deal of that to Mike Hughes from Next Level Training.
Yep.
It was due to Mike's initial campaigning, for lack of a better term, with the headquarters with NRA, that I was able to do those videos for the Simco, or the Pistol Marksmanship Simulator training course, and that was really the first step in being able to broaden my influence. And I thank Mike Hughes and Britt for that. They really kind of went to bat for me. And from there, it kind of snowballed. And I've been doing a lot with USCCA over the last couple of years. Rob Pincus has been very, very helpful as a mentor and a friend. And certainly just spreading the information, man. I really enjoy getting out there and helping to motivate my fellow citizens, especially the folks that want to become instructors and share that knowledge. You know, we can do this. It's something that we can all do if we want to put the time, effort, and energy into it, and really perfect our craft so that we can bring that information out.
It's really enlightening when you have somebody in a class, and I know you agree, that you teach them, and by the end of the class, it's that light bulb that pops off, and they're just like, oh, I can do this. This isn't as intimidating, or this isn't as it doesn't frazzle them as much, and they walk away with this confidence that they can protect themselves, that that they're on a path, or they get the bug, and now they want more training and more guns and more ammo. So it's really neat. That's the part that I love. The part that I love is to teach somebody something and then have them walk away with more knowledge that could literally save their lives.
Sure. And once they take that first step, it's like we'll teach refuse to be a victim, or personal protection in the home, or the USCCA's concealed carry and home defense fundamentals. We talk about just check those screws in the latch plate of your front door, and take those little 1/4 inch out ones and put 3-inch ones in there. I've had more people say, hey, I did that. You're right. The screws were short, and I put 3-inch screws. Now my door's stronger, and now I think I'm going to do this, and now I think I'm going to do that, and it starts to snowball.
And that's one of the reasons why we got into installing ballistics film. So installing ballistics film on windows and in schools and churches and businesses and even homes we've done it at is because that glass only keeps good people honest, right? Back in the day when we had castles, they didn't have glass. They had moats and drawbridges and little windows like this, or little cuts in the sides of the stone like this, that they could shoot arrows out and such. There was no such thing as windows. And people just, Columbine, that's how they got into Columbine. They shot the glass, walked in the door. So that's putting that mindset in them that the door shut isn't going to stop a bad guy if they really want to get in, and adding more things to slow them down, and then obviously more equipped individuals inside the building to fight back and know how to fight back and have tools to fight back with. That's that right there is that next echelon that we're trying to accomplish with my company.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up. That's how, and I won't say his name because I don't believe in that, but the evil individual at Sandy Hook, he popped the window, came in and shot the principal. I believe it was the principal, the person that was able to hit the alarm to let everyone know.
Yep.
He was shot first, so they were unaware of what was going on. So that first line of defense was with glass, especially having those window treatments. We kind of went off on a side trip there, but I think that's good information to talk about.
Yeah.
That's not nearly as expensive as people think either, right? In the grand scheme of life.
No, if you're going to replace the windows and put bulletproof windows or even ballistics glass in there, then it's less costly than that. And we're doing, it depends on the location. It depends on how many windows. If there's only a few windows, and it's going to be more pricey because I gotta send employees out there to do it. But yeah, it's kind of, you kind of look at it like insurance. If you don't have it, you're going to wish you had it after the fact. If you don't have the at least ballistics film on the windows or ballistics glass, then you're going to wish you had it if something happens. And we can't pick and choose where these bad guys are going to go. It's random. They're going to show up whenever, wherever. They're going to pick a target based on whatever. So you don't
usually based on the fact that people in there are disarmed and they have no way to defend themselves.
No guns. Yeah, no guns. Zones, right? Signs.
Yeah, gun-free zones. Yeah, that's an evil magnet.
Yeah, most definitely. And
Yeah.
and now in New York State, because I know we want to talk about politics, New York State, there used to be a law that said that the school superintendent and or the school board, some official at the school, could give written permission to somebody to carry on school property. So teachers, parents, whoever, and most schools wouldn't do it in New York, but there had been a couple schools that actually hired me to teach their staff how to isolate targets and not shoot a bad guy and hit somebody inadvertently on the other side. Knowing your target and behind, or knowing your target and what's beyond mindset. And then once they passed the class, which I did the USCCA course, once they passed that DSF course, then I give them a written, or the school would give them that written permission to be able to carry firearms on the school. Well, New York State now is trying to get rid of that because they don't believe that anybody should be in the school with a firearm other than police or school resource officers or armed security guards, which we know that works well based on what happened in Florida, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the core beliefs of National Train a Teacher Day, which I will get to at some point in time here, is we believe that any law-abiding citizen should be able to defend themselves with a firearm.
Amen.
And if they happen to be a teacher, a school staff, or administrator, they should have every right to do that at work, just like they would at the park or at the mall, what have you.
Definitely.
I'm not for a national arm the teacher program. I think that's a horrible idea.
Yep.
But we should allow law-abiding citizens who have taken on that responsibility in their own life to defend themselves. They should be allowed to do that where they work as well.
Well, and the concept, I was telling you before that I had some lady walk by. I was doing a booth at the Minorities in Criminal Justice Symposium in Syracuse last year, and lady walks by the booth and she looks and she sees a bunch of guns, and they're all airsoft guns, they're laser ammo products I had set up, and she walks by and she goes, "Oh, I heard they're going to start arming teachers. When that happens, I'm retiring." I was like, okay, you guys have fire extinguishers at the school, right? And she's like, well, yeah. And I was like, you know how to use it? She goes, yeah. So, well, they don't expect you to be a firefighter. It's a tool that can save a life, just like a gun. They don't expect you to be a cop, but if you know how to use it, it can save a life. And she was like, and a light went off as the smoke started coming out her ears, right?
Absolutely. If you understand how the gun works,
Right.
it can help to empower you. Even if you don't want to actually pick it up and use it, if you know how it works, that can certainly empower you and maybe give you an opportunity to intervene.
Most definitely. A lot of people get in the mindset that if they're armed, they're going to be looking for the bad guy. And I never condone that. I mean, we always use the mentality, if gunshots are here, civilians should be doing this. If gunshots are here, police are doing this, right? You're retreating from the situation if you can do so safely. In New York State, you're duty-bound to do so under the law. But when it comes to teachers or somebody in the school being armed, they're armed as a last resort, just like civilians we teach here in New York do everything you can not to be in that gunfight. And it's the same way with that. If you're in a school, in a classroom with kids and you're armed, then that gun is to stop that bad guy from killing you or those kids in that room, not for you to leave those kids in the room and run around the place and try to shoot the bad guy.
That's a great point. Yeah.
A lot of people think that they're going to be a vigilante now running through trying to find this active killer, and that's not the case, and that's not what I'm condoning. It's a misnomer.
Well, I mean, it's just like we teach in any of the home defense curriculum that either of us offer. We want to, if at all possible, evade and barricade in some type of a safe environment and then guard the door.
Yep.
And then that way, if that person does decide to come through, well, you've done everything you can to avoid it, but also now you have tactical advantage. If I'm watching that door and that bad guy decides to breach that door and do harm to me or my children, then I'm ready for it there. So we even have a higher level of anticipation, which can actually help us with our balance of speed and precision too.
Working that DSF in there, I love that.
It's part. I've drank the Kool-Aid, man, years ago.
Good. It's good, definitely.
Years ago.
I love the curriculum. Yeah, I went out to Wisconsin in August and to get level 1, and then Reno in October to get level 2, and it's.
Now, we're bouncing around here a little bit. For those of you that don't know, DSF is Defensive Shooting Fundamentals. It's a program developed by USCCA, which was originally developed and designed by Rob Pincus, and it was kind of a marriage, so to speak, of resources, and that new program has come out through the USCCA. So it's based on Rob's counter-ambush methodology, which, as I said, I've been a huge proponent of that for years. I've been teaching Rob's ICE curriculum for about 2 years now, maybe 3 years. I'd have to look at my daytime to figure out what year it
It
is.
all runs into each other.
It certainly does, man. But it's a wonderful program, and both of us are offering it. And I'm actually doing some instructor development with that later on. We'll talk about that when we go into our schedule. Maybe this is a good
Good
opportunity to
segue.
transition into the schedule.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you got coming up?
Oh goodness! Do weekly we're doing New York handgun safety courses. So all over the state, everywhere from out by Buffalo down to Bath Rod and Gun Club. We're working on trying to get more south down by in Broome County, more out east towards Oneonta, and then obviously up north. As far we go usually is Clay, but we've gone as far as up to Watertown area to teach them as well. Multi-state courses. I'm teaching in Long Island with Top Shot Frank Maloney, one of the top shots is on the History Channel. He's bringing me down there to teach him a multi-state course. I think we've got 16 students signed up for that, which is awesome. And I do those about every 3 months. But funny thing, this month I actually am doing it four times this month. I did one at Bath, doing one in Newark. I've got one tomorrow at Pompey Rod and Gun Club, and then doing one in Oneonta and then Long Island. So actually 5 this month scheduled.
So in New York, as far as the requirements and whatnot, is every county like its own country? Like they all have their own king in the sheriff's department? I don't mean that to sound as derogatory as
No,
that
no.
came off.
It's totally derogatory. That's good. I like that. That's fitting. It's fitting. So yeah, it's called a licensing officer. So in the penal code, it's called a licensing officer. And all of upstate and Long Island, well, I should say all of upstate, it's a judge. One judge is the licensing officer, but some counties have more than one judge that actually approves licenses. In New York City and Long Island, the licensing officer would be law enforcement. So either the sheriff or the NYPD in New York City in that case. And literally it's drastically different. For instance, Cortland County, you got a heartbeat, you get an unrestricted license. Onondaga County, you've got to give proper cause, is what they call it in the penal code. The county judge will look at your proper cause reasoning, and if it's good enough, then he will issue you an unrestricted license. If it's not good enough, then they'll just give you a sportsman restriction, which is basically good for hunting, hiking, camping, fishing, target shooting, and competition shooting, though that's not spelled out in the penal code. So truly, that administrative restriction is just that. They're not breaking the law, but the judge could revoke their license if they go against that judge's edict. So I usually tell people, work with the judge, try to get that restriction removed. I try to meet with the judges at least once a year and have lunch with them. Actually, meeting with one of the judges tomorrow, actually Monday, to go over some stuff. So yeah, it's night and day. It's crazy how one county they won't issue anything but sportsmen. Other counties they'll issue you full unrestricted. It's definitely.
Now, if I live in County A, can I go to County B and get a permit, or do you have to stay local?
So it's typically the county that you live in. There are a few counties, 2 or 3 that I know of right off the top of my head, that actually, if you work in that county, you can apply in that county. And they also have some concessions with Pennsylvania. So if you live down in like Broome County, down in that area at the bottom of New York State, and you live in Pennsylvania, then you can get a non-resident if you work in Broome County but live in PA. So they do allow that a little bit as well. And that, once again, comes back to the judge and the sheriff in that county and how pro Second Amendment are they, and if they really believe in citizens protecting themselves and that law enforcement can't be everywhere all the time.
Yeah, that's terribly cumbersome.
Oh yeah. It is definitely crazy.
Well, and when we get into our political activism segment,
right.
It's part of our job. Our job is to obey the law.
Yeah.
And when laws suck, we need to do something about it. So we'll kind of table that thought for a moment. So with mandatory training. Is there mandatory training in every county?
Depends on the county.
Okay, so that's up to that controlling. Yep. No. Well, up to the king, I'll say again. I do mean that to be derogatory, but I can say that because I live in Pennsylvania.
And the King Cuomo, they're currently in the process of trying to make it so there is mandatory training across the state. There's a bill that they introduced that they're trying to get pushed through, and being that all houses are run by the Democrats now, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, where they want to make it where you have to do a 5-hour class with live fire, with a written test, as well as they want to add where if you want to buy a long gun, you have to have a hunting license.
Wow.
So they're really trying to tie the Second Amendment to hunting, right? And even though the Second Amendment has the word bear in it, we know that has nothing to do with hunting, right? About
Yeah.
keeping the government in check and personal protection.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It
Yeah,
is.
I truly believe that mandatory training sets up an industry of the lowest common denominator. Now, do I think training is important? Absolutely. I mean, it's how I essentially make my living, as do
Same.
you. But mandatory training, it's usually set up by these arbitrary standards that are oftentimes put in place by people that know nothing about firearms. And what good is that? Plus, then someone who doesn't have training, they take whatever class they're required to take, and now they felt that they've met a standard that's set forth by the government, and they
That's all they
believe that
need.
they're ready. They're
Yep.
good. I'm ready to go. And of course, we know, when is too, how long is a piece of string? We can't say what's going to be enough training. And those of us that take on that responsibility and make it a lifestyle choice, there's never enough training. We need to
Right.
continuously grow and develop and evolve. And the mandatory training, I think that sets up the wrong outcome.
And I've always been, I mean, in the same boat like you just mentioned. It's how I make my living as well. And it's frustrating to me because if you don't make it mandatory, people won't do the training. They'll just say, well, that's not mandatory. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get a gun. I'm going to carry it on me. And as we know, most people shoot themselves either drawing the firearm or reholstering the firearm. So I
Yeah, but
struggle with that because
but
I
I
don't
tell
want to
you
make
what,
it
coming from Pennsylvania, where there is no mandatory training, at least as now it stands,
right.
and if I have anything to do with it, that's how it'll stay. But uh, my classes fill up. All the trainers that I train in Pennsylvania, their classes fill up. People want the training,
Yeah.
and to say that no one will take classes, I
No.
think that's an inaccurate statement.
Yeah, I don't think it would be no one, but I know here in New York at least, any class that's mandatory, pack the doors. I mean, I think I had my New York course where they had to take the course to get their license in most of the counties in central New York. 82 people is the most I've ever had in one class. Whereas another course such as driver's ed or boater's ed, well, boater's ed's not a good example because they got to take that if they want to do a jet ski. But driver's ed to get point reduction, that's a hard one to fill. OC, pepper spray, for somebody to take a pepper spray course, that's something that's not mandatory, not required, and it's hard to get people to take that course because it's not a mandatory course and they don't think that they need that. Oh, I can carry pepper spray legally. I don't need to take a course, and they just carry it. So once again, I'm opposed to mandatory training, but there's got to be at least in New York State, it doesn't sound like you had the issue as much in your state, but in New York State, there's got to be a change in mindset that training is good and people need to seek it out so that way that they're better prepared.
Hmm. Well, I think a lot of times in states where it's required, there's a negative stigma to it because,
Yeah. I gotta
doggone
take
it,
it.
I gotta take, yeah, I gotta take
Government,
this.
yeah,
But if
government
if
can't.
you look at how many people are taking the class so that they can get their magic plastic card to put their shirt over their gun, or in
Right.
your case, they have to get a magic plastic card to even go buy a firearm. Is that correct, or is that a false?
They have to have the pistol license. They can't even touch a handgun without having that license. They go into a
So
gun store and say, can I look at that gun? Do you have a pistol license? No. Nope. Go get a pistol license. You can come back and touch it.
which I think is one of the reasons NRA pushed forth the pistol marksmanship simulator training program, because you're able to use a SIRT pistol
Yeah.
or another laser training device. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting. But you have people filling up these classes, and that just goes to show that the citizens want to
Yeah.
exercise their Second Amendment rights.
Very true. I agree with that 100%.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what other classes do you have coming up? Do you have any thing out of town? Anything big? I know you're going to be hosting some pretty cool folks coming up.
Got a Simcoe. So you mentioned Simcoe. I do a Simcoe 1, which is the NRA's simulated course. They get an NRA certificate. And then after that, I do a Simcoe 2, which is basically draw and shoot. I teach them biomechanical stop, orient towards the target, extend, touch, press. And we go through that for 2 hours, teaching them how to draw and reholster. And then I do a Simcoe 3, which is a draw and shoot, don't shoot, to be able to allow people to actually run a scenario and see, okay, should I shoot, shouldn't I shoot? So that's something that I've evolved, because a lot of people, they have to wait 3-6 months, sometimes up to a year to get a pistol license after they apply for it. So during that time,
Wow.
I have courses that I'm providing to them so they can get that training and that knowledge, and also have good certificates to submit with their application to possibly achieve the unrestricted unicorn of courses, or unicorn of cards, if you will. I also do Article 35, use of force course. We talk about use of force, deadly force, physical force, castle doctrine, stand your ground, which isn't here in New York, unlike Florida and some other states they have. So those are those. And then as far as events we have or other people we have coming in, I've got Larry Vickers coming in to do a pistol marksmanship coming up in August, as well as a AR operator and an AK operator Saturday and Sunday. And then I've got TIG, John Tygen. John Tygen's coming in October to do a charity event. And 5 lucky winners get to go out to the range with him on Sunday, actually have lunch with him, and then go to the range and get to shoot some cool guns like my Uzi, my Tommy gun, AK-47s, Mosin Nagant, and Barrett. We talked to Barrett, and Barrett said they're going to see if they can get a 50 BMG out there for us to shoot too.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, John Tygan, he was actually on my squad when the first year I competed at the NRA World Shooting Championship. I'm not a competitor. I don't come from that background at all. And actually, some of the competitions don't really make a whole lot of sense to me coming from a defensive training background. But he was on my squad. Yeah, I don't know if he'd remember me because I was very unremarkable in that venue.
Yeah.
And Vickers bought something off of me off Gunbroker once. I'm pretty sure. I can't imagine there's many guys named Larry Vickers.
Probably not.
That's a pretty unique name.
Yeah, especially in the gun industry at that.
Yeah.
So what courses do you have coming up? Do you have anything?
Well, this year's been pretty cool. Last year I've been traveling around to a whole lot of states. I think I was in 7 different states last year, if I recall off the top of my head.
Wow.
This year already I've done classes in Virginia, of course in Pennsylvania, in both coasts of Pennsylvania, if you will. And I was up in New Jersey. I did a class up there, a USCCA certified instructor course for the Concealed Carry Home Defense Fundamentals curriculum. So I've been bouncing around. I have let's see, I'm slated to be in Wisconsin on May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's tentatively put in my book, going out and helping train the new DSF instructors out there at USCCA headquarters. May 6th, I'm going to be at the Second Amendment rally in Harrisburg. So actually, if I am in Wisconsin, I'm going to have to fly from Wisconsin to Harrisburg and go to the rally, and then come back here the next day because I'm hosting Rob Pincus on May 7th, 8th, and 9th. He's doing an intuitive defensive shooting course, a 2-day on May 7th and 8th. And then on May 9th, he's doing an advanced pistol handling course, which is a lot of fun. Then the 17th, 18th, and 19th of May, the expo is going to be here, USCCA's expo in Pittsburgh.
You're teaching. What are you teaching there?
I've got 2 seminars I'm running on Saturday, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. The Concealed Carry Lifestyle Seminar. I'm doing the same seminar twice.
Nice.
Which is a seminar I put together, which is actually based off of an article I did for Personal Defense Network.
Nice.
It was called the Concealed Carry Infrastructure, Citizens Concealed Carry Infrastructure, and I call this the Concealed Carry Lifestyle. That's what I call the seminar. Matter of fact, I did that seminar at the NRA Concealed Carry Expo a couple years ago, and I threw up some video cameras and videotaped it and cut it together, and Rob Pincus released it on Personal Defense Network. So if you want to see what the seminar is about, you can see a version of it on Personal Defense Network. Now, I constantly evolve it. They're never quite the same. Obviously, I follow a pretty reasonable format. But it's for anybody. Mostly it's for people that are just getting into concealed carry or using a firearm as a tool of self-defense. Maybe that person that has a gun, they have it at home. Maybe they already have their license to carry or their permit, depending on where they live. But they just haven't quite made that step to put it on them and carry it with them all the time. And it's important that people recognize it's not just about the gun. The gun is a very small part of it.
Right.
You know, having the ability to collect and process information so that we can avoid situations. That's the key thing. And then, you know, having an efficient holster and having the correct ammunition that's going to be working for them and where they might be using the firearm, especially when it gets into the home. My defensive ammo might not be the best choice if I live in a clapboard house that's 3 inches from my neighbor. You know, like a mining town, we have them around here, where over-penetration might be a real factor to consider.
Right.
And, of course, you know, you're having your legal team in place, you know, being able to survive that legal and emotional and financial aftermath if, God forbid, we have to press trigger in a dynamic critical incident. So it talks about a lot of that.
That's
Obviously,
awesome.
It talks about training and some things to look for. But I it's pretty well received, and I look forward to putting it on at the expo. Also, Trigger Presses Union will have a booth there.
Nice.
I won't be at the booth all the time because I'm technically going to be on. I think I'm working for USCCA those 3 days, and I might be at the UTM range or at the live fire range or wherever else they need me to be. So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I forgot to mention I'll be there doing the pepper spray class. So they've got me slated to teach pepper spray. I think I'm doing a one free seminar, a 2-hour seminar, and then a 4-hour class, and then I'm also going to be on the podcast there, the Carry Concealed podcast.
Cool. Yeah, I believe I'll be on the podcast too. And my local guys, make sure you go check out Matt's pepper spray course. Me personally, if I can't carry my firearm, pepper spray is usually my go-to.
Yep.
But it's important, and this is something we talk about in that seminar. It's important to have unarmed skills. It's important to have other devices at your disposal that you might employ as a tool of self-defense, to recognize improvised tools. All of that plays into it.
Newest one I just got at the ILETA conference that I was at. It was working pro staff for laser ammo this past week at the ILETA conference.
Oh, wow! Look at that.
I like it.
Spring assisted.
Yeah,
Raven. You're gonna start singing like West Side Story now.
Raven Crest Tactical. That's one of our new sponsors.
Yeah, I'll have to get me one of those.
You're gonna get you one of them. We will have one for you.
So June 5th, 6th, and 7th, I'm in Indiana, the state of Indiana. Okay. Local people here will get that. There's a town called Indiana very close by here. So I'll be in the state of Indiana on those dates. I'm doing a certified muzzleloader instructor course for National Muzzleloading Rifle Association at NMLRA headquarters, which is kind of fun.
That's awesome.
So that's a really, really cool facility. June 22nd and 23rd, I'm doing a Defensive Shooting Fundamentals Level 1 instructor development course here in New Kensington, just outside of Pittsburgh. And I'll be doing that one. And Jamie Onion is going to be here with me on that one. Also doing one on July 13th and 14th as well. I have one scheduled here. So if you're not interested in traveling to Wisconsin to get your DSF instructor ratings, you could certainly come here to Western Pennsylvania. June 29th and 30th, I'm going to be in Massachusetts. That'll be my first class I'm teaching in Massachusetts, just outside of Boston in a town called Mansfield. I'll be doing the USCCA DSF Level 1 on Saturday and then the Level 2 on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to putting that on. That brings me up to July 20th, which is National Train-a-Teacher Day, which is a nationwide thing. I'll talk about that in a moment. And the other one I want to mention is August 23rd and 24th. I am hosting Derek Poole. He's one of the senior trainers for ICE Training, Rob Pincus's company, and he'll be putting on a 2-day intuitive defensive carbine class, which if you're into carbines, Derek is their rifle guy. So by all means, sign up for that class and join me. I'll be taking that one as a student. I always enjoy training underneath of Derek. Derek's a great instructor.
Very cool.
And he's definitely a lot of fun to work with. So that's what I got so far. I've got a whole lot of other local classes going on too.
I forgot to mention that I'm going to be in. We've got a local gun show, Syracuse Gun Show, that's in April 17th and 18th, I think it is, or 16th and 17th that weekend. So I'll be actually in West Virginia doing a CCHDF instructor course for the USCCA. I'll be heading down doing that while my employees will be at the gun show running our gun show booth. So a lot of things going on, and NRA and USCCA instructor courses. I got them scattered throughout out till June. I'm working on trying to get the schedule out till the end of the year, but it's fun trying to manage the business and teach the classes, and now run a gun store and have employees doing ballistics film, and I know you deal with the same kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's been crazy, and locally we've been threatened as far as our rights are concerned in the city of Pittsburgh, and of course in Harrisburg, and frankly across the country. We've seen that happen more frequently, and I've recently been elected president of Allegheny County Sportsman's League, and we've been moving forward with legal action, and that's been taking a lot of time.
Right.
But I think it's important. It's very important. But we'll get more into that when we get into our segment on activism. So if I can just jump in here, let's talk about National Train-a-Teacher Day.
Go for it.
Okay, well, National Train-a-Teacher this year, our second annual National Train-a-Teacher Day will be on July 20th. That's a Saturday, July 20th. And basically, this started off last year after Parkland. Mm-hmm. One of our colleagues, Grant Gallagher. Do you know Grant?
I do.
You've worked with Grant before.
Yeah, I certified him as a training counselor.
Oh, excellent. That's right. Well, Grant, he he called me up after Park and said, "Man, we got to do something." I said, "Well, I mean, that's what everyone was saying at the time."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he said, "We need to offer training to teachers." And I said, "Well, I already do that." I said, "So do you, right?" And he says, "Yeah." And but his idea was that we unite as a group, as firearms and defensive educators,
Right.
and offer training as a unified front. So he said, "What about doing like I don't know, National Train a Teacher Day?" And I said, "I'm on it, brother." And I tell you what, it was one of those
Wildfire.
one of those couple days I didn't sleep. And from the time I hung up the phone, 2 days, I had the website up, I had it built, domain paid for, and man, we were off to the races. Nice. And in 2018, we did it in May, and we had over 150 instructors in, I want to say 37 states. 30 some states. It wasn't all 50 yet. I'd have to look up the data on that. I don't know off the top of my head. But we offered the training. We got a little bit of national publicity. Mark Walters from Armed American Radio had me on briefly, and there were a few other regional radio stations, and each instructor was able to promote it locally. It was very grassroots, and it was successful. So this year we decided, based upon some of the after action reports from the end users, we decided to put the class on in the summertime. A lot of the teachers, school staff, and administrators that took part said that they could have brought more people if we did it in the summer months. So, okay, we're going to give it a try this year. We're going to try it in July, so July 20th.
So explain a little bit as far as when you say the class. Is it specific class and curriculum? Is it any class? Can an instructor sign up to do it? Just a quick roll through on the process.
Well, it's our core belief that any education can go towards empowering somebody. Agreed?
Yes, definitely.
So, teachers, school staff, and administrators can pick out whatever class they want to teach. The instructors that volunteer are pledging to give those people, teachers, school staff, and admin, total free of charge, the training that day. Some instructors are putting on full classes specifically for teachers. Other folks are doing their normal open enrollment classes, and if a teacher or someone happens to sign up, they comp them. They let them in for free. But we're requesting our volunteers to teach the standardized courses that you teach. So maybe it's a home defense, maybe it's just a basic NRA basics of pistol shooting. Maybe it's a home firearm safety class. Maybe it's a full-on tactical course. Maybe it's ALICE training. Yeah. Whatever the instructor can offer, let them offer it. And the teachers are going to pick what's going to work best for them. Lots of people last year were doing Stop the Bleed classes. And lots of teachers were taking those courses. Some teachers wanted to kind of overcome inhibitions and just learn how firearms work. So the NRA Basics of Pistol Shooting or a home firearm safety course was something that was perfect for them. Other folks wanted to actually learn to carry the gun on them and use it in a defensive context. So, maybe the ICE fundamentals of concealed carry or the USCCA's concealed carry and home defense fundamentals was something that they would look for, or the personal protection series through NRA. So there's a little of something for everyone, but we believe that any class an instructor can give has the potential to empower that teacher, that school staff or admin. So we want to empower those who are charged with the education and safety of our children.
That's awesome.
So we want people to be proactive. That's the big thing.
Definitely.
So that education will help them do that. So whether that means they can put a gun on them, which may or may not be allowed in their state. Of course, we're not suggesting that they violate any law, but what better advocate for personal liberty is there than an educated teacher that understands how guns work and knows how to use one properly?
Most definitely. So what's the website people can go to actually register and sign up as a instructor and be able to offer their services?
Yeah, it's a nationaltrainateacherday.com, www.nationaltrainateacherday.com. And on the website, you can volunteer to offer training to those folks. If you are one of those folks, a teacher, school staff, or admin, you can go and find instructors who are teaching in your area. And it constantly evolves. I actually, in the time we set up to where we are now, I've had 5 more instructors volunteer. So I'm constantly updating that as quickly as I can. So if there's someone not in your area teaching, check it again next week, and there very well might be. And frankly, teachers, if you want training and you can't find someone, contact me and I'll see if I can roust up some people nearby you and make that happen.
Yeah, with the connections that we have with the USCCA and the NRA, it wouldn't be too hard to call up and say, who do we have in this area that's active, or who do we have in this area that you could reach out to?
Yeah, I think that possibility definitely exists, and I would certainly try to make that happen for anyone that wanted to get educated and empowered.
Awesome. Cool. So why don't we get into politics?
Politics. See, this is the stuff you're not allowed to talk about in most organized classes.
Hogwash!
Yeah, hogwash.
Yeah,
I think
you know
it's
why
important.
that is, though? Because it makes your eyes go, Quah! New training dummy.
Yeah, new training dummy. Yeah.
Anyway.
So, with politics and activism, we teach people in our classes to be aware of their surroundings, right?
Yep.
Looking for other potential threats and avoiding bad situations, right? We teach them to retain their firearms so that someone can't steal it from them and take it away from them, because what good is a tool of self-defense if you don't have it in your hand, right?
Exactly.
And we teach people to be efficient with how they use their firearm, right? Well, elected officials can affect all those things, maybe not in an aggressive, overt context, but, gun safes don't keep your guns safe from elected officials.
True.
And that's important to recognize. So, we teach people all these fundamentals and these concepts and principles, but yet we don't talk about the fact that you need to protect your firearms from people who are trying to take them away from you at the state and local level and the national level.
And the way that they hide that in sheep's clothing is by saying, oh, well, who really needs a semi-automatic to hunt animals? Or, why do you need this? Why do you need that? Why do you need so much ammunition to kill an animal? And it's a facade. It's just a way for them to keep beating away. And we've recently had national politicians that have actually said specifically that we want to try to get guns out of everybody's hands. We don't want anybody to have guns, and then the bad guys will put their guns down. Huh? I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever. An armed citizenry, I believe, is a polite one. And I think you'll see that when you go to the USCCA Expo or if you go to the NRA annual meeting. The vast majority of the people there are armed, and the vast majority are polite.
Yeah.
They're polite and cordial. And I think there is something to be said about that. Especially if you're an educated armed individual, you're going to be much less likely to use the firearm because you understand the importance of the responsibility of carrying it. So when we get into the whole bit on activism, we need to pay attention, be situationally aware of what's going on legislatively, and we need to retain our firearms. Let's not let people take them from us.
Right.
Because I believe that Second Amendment is for a couple reasons. One, well, it's to protect ourselves, but also the true fourth check and balance of our system of government in this constitutional republic is an educated and armed citizenry.
Yep.
And we need to exercise that. We need to exercise our rights.
Definitely. Yeah, the government strips us from the guns, and you always hear registration leads to confiscation. That right there, just if you're registering your guns, if they're forcing you to register the guns, they know where to come to get them when they're ready to confiscate them. And what's to say that one politician doesn't have that desire to do so, but the next politician says, hey, we got a list of guns. Why don't we just send all these cops out to pick them up?
Absolutely.
And law enforcement swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States, but they also swear an oath to the local state. And if the local state's corrupt and the local state has it in their laws to turn in all guns, gun registration, gun buybacks, whatever you want to call it, for them to try to get those guns back, then that officer is now conflicted because now they have to constitutionally federally and constitutionally state. I mean, you got conflicting constitutions at two different levels.
Well, you've got two things that are going on here. You have well-intended people who are just ignorant as far as how guns work, how criminals work. And they think that by removing all the firearms, it's going to make bad people just decide, oh, you know what? I think I'll just go into Duckies and Bunnies land and I won't harm anyone. Well, that's not how predators work, man.
If they decide to ban all fully semi-automatic guns, then that's fine.
Yeah, fully semi-automatic.
No such thing.
Yeah. So you've got those folks. So what they're purporting or what they're promoting is something that's hugely flawed and very inefficient.
Right.
Or you have the people that may potentially be trying to disarm their population for tyrannical reasons.
Yep.
And that's just kind of up to you to decide on where your local elected official lands on that. But either way, it's not good for you as the
No.
law-abiding citizen, because these laws that they pass don't affect the criminals, because criminals don't pay attention to law. I
Yep.
mean, that's pretty simple, right? So it's my opinion that any elected official whose answer to a question is to limit the rights of a law-abiding citizen is that's just not an acceptable
Yeah,
answer.
it's the wrong way to go about it. We had, when the SAFE Act passed in 2013 here, they shoved it down our throat. They didn't consult law enforcement at all. Middle of the night, they signed it. The next day, they didn't even exempt law enforcement to be able to enforce the law, which means my buddies and I were looking at each other like, are you going to arrest me? No. Are you going to arrest me? No. Good. Okay, we're good. Because every law enforcement officer was breaking the law because they had high-capacity magazines, etc., that they weren't supposed to have because they were no longer exempt from the law. Crazy. They actually exempted Hollywood prior to finally exempting law enforcement. I mean,
Interesting.
that's how misplaced our political landscape is here in New York State.
That's very interesting. I didn't know about the Hollywood bit.
Yeah.
That's
I met with one of the assemblymen who voted for it, and I asked him. I said, "So you're telling me my wife can only have 7 rounds of ammunition in her magazine if somebody breaks into the house with 10 or 30 round magazines?" Because before they break into the house, they're going to say, well, oh, I can't have more than I'm only going to put 7 in here before I go rob this bank or before I go break into this house, because that's the law. If they're going to break the law, they don't care about breaking the law multiple times to carry out that breaking of the law. And I just don't see how politicians, either, like you said, they're ignorant in that sense, or woefully neglectful in that extent where they're trying to take away guns, and this is their way. They're slowly chipping away and eroding at our Second Amendment.
absolutely. So what are some pieces of legislation or current situations that are happening in New York that you'd like to inform your New York people about?
Well, the red flag, they've pushed that. Out-of-state mental health records, they got a new S2438 that they're trying to push through. Safe storage of firearms is something as well, where if somebody's under 16 years old or under in your house, then it has to be unloaded with a trigger lock in the safe, locked up. Now, my rebuttal to that would be, well, if you're in your home and you have a handgun, then you should have a handgun on you and loaded, because you need to get to it at a moment's notice. You don't want to run to a safe saying, bad guy, hang on a sec, wait, I got to get my gun out. No timeouts when a bad guy's kicking your front door in. So if you have it on you, then you can use that to fight to your long gun. But for those people that don't have a pistol license, now they have to have their long guns, if they have somebody 16 or under in their home, locked up, unloaded, with a trigger guard on it, multiple locks, ammunition separate. They just keep making it harder and harder for good people to defend themselves with a firearm.
Let alone that 16-year-old that might be at home alone.
Yeah,
If they need to use that firearm to defend themselves.
Yeah, how much practice do they have? Some cases probably more than the parent, but
Maybe. Yeah.
Effective background checks. They're trying to do more with restricting background checks. They say there's this gun show loophole, but you can't. I mean, the gun shows, you're breaking the law by doing it. So if somebody's going to a gun show and they're buying a gun and they're doing this sale of a gun at the gun show without actually going through an FFL to do the NICS background check, then they're breaking the law. So these people are breaking the law already. Most people are going to try to abide by the law. More laws get in place. Who's going to abide by it? The people that want to be legal and law abiding. The bad guys are just going to say, well, I'm not going to abide by it in the first place. So yeah, I'm going to go register my illegal gun. It doesn't happen.
I think maybe they should pass a law that makes breaking the law illegal. And they should enforce it on the elected officials.
Term limits and other things like that, making sure that the same laws that they apply to us are upheld by them. That's always been a Achilles heel for all of us, federally all the way down to New York State specifically as well. They did a bump stock ban. They're trying to ban the bump stocks. The governor just wants to have something legislatively in his own name. So, of course, they're trying to do more things that they're doing federally, which, banning a bump stock's not going to stop bad guys. I mean,
right.
Yeah, we know that. And then other ones with
piece of plastic.
Yeah, it's a piece of plastic. I mean, Jerry Mitchell actually was able to do it faster with his finger. I think there was a video on YouTube where he was able to actuate a gun faster than a bump stock could.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got big hands, man. It's like huge. The no arming teachers, the one I was mentioning earlier, as far as not allowing teachers or ushers at churches that are attached to schools, anything like that, to be able to to use firearms for self-defense, even if the school administration gives them written permission to do so. Yeah, so gun buybacks, they're working on trying to do a gun buyback one where I don't know all the specifics of it, but it's S2449. So that's another one that they're trying to implement. It literally, once the Democrats had control of all areas of the government in New York State, they just started throwing laws. I mean, left and right. If you want to get a long gun, now you have to have a hunting license. That's another one they're trying to do. 5 hours of training with live fire and a written test in order to get a pistol license.
Well, don't mislead our viewers, and don't mislead yourself. It's not just the Democrats.
No,
I can say
totally.
In Pennsylvania and nationally speaking,
Yep.
the Republicans are pulling this kind of stuff too, for whatever reason. And I think it's important to recognize that.
Most definitely, and very true. I say Democrats because now there's no filter, there's no stop in that sense. But the SAFE Act was passed with bipartisan support, so we can't forget that in New York State. It wasn't just the Democrats; it was the Republicans siding with the Democrats to be able to pass that. And but it was very small margin that it was passed on, but it was passed. Now there's no qualms. They want it passed; it will be passed. There's nothing stopping them whatsoever, other than maybe impeachment or another election or God forbid civil war, right?
So would you agree that the vast majority of people that you encounter, especially in classes, are ignorant to what's going on in their legislatures as far as these kind of laws that are being brought up and voted on?
Every class I do, I make it a point to bring up AR. Oh, this guy was in his backyard and he was shooting his AR. And then I stop and I look at the students and I go, what does AR stand for? And every class, I've not had one class out of every class that I've taught over the past 2-3 years that they've said, somebody may say Armalite rifle, but there is at least one person that says assault rifle or automatic rifle. And of course, I go through the spiel. It doesn't stand for assault rifle, doesn't stand for automatic rifle. And though I love America, it does not stand for American rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle, the company that invented it in the 1950s as a civilian rifle before it became a military rifle. So why all of a sudden now is this big black scary gun that's got the acronym AR that people think misplaced? Why is it such a bad thing? And it's the people, it's not the tool.
Sure. If I did an article on Personal Defense Network called "The Semantics of Civilian Firearms Training," and it gets a little deeper into that. There's a lot of psyops that goes into the words that are used in the media, and the AR there's a whole lot of things that we've been taught incorrectly from the flashy TV box that we focus our attention to. But one interesting thing that people don't realize, assault rifle is a direct translation from German, from the Sturmgewehr. And that was a propaganda thing that Hitler did when they came out with that gun. He called it the Sturmgewehr to incite fear into the enemy, and that's where that comes from. That term, assault rifle, which is pretty interesting.
That is interesting. That's very interesting. I always tell people that this day and age is not like it used to be. Back in the day, you'd give Bobby a shotgun and say, "Bobby, go out and get us dinner." And Bobby'd go out, 8-year-old, right? You go out and slay a deer, field dress it.
Come back when it's dark, right?
Yeah, exactly. He'd come back, throw the back straps on the counter, and, "Mom, dinner's ready to cook up." Mom would come out and cook it up. You ask an 8-year-old where milk comes from now. What do they say?
The store.
The store.
A box.
Right.
A jug.
Almonds. Still trying to figure out how they milk them almonds. But, you got... they don't know. People don't know what they don't know. And these days where it's not like it used to be where people are educated with firearms. It was like, spurs on your boots because you had to ride a horse to work. Everybody had a gun. It's not like that anymore.
Well, and it's such a taboo subject. It doesn't need to be. I've pounded my fist about how I'm against mandatory training, but I am entirely for mandatory training in grade school. Gun safety training.
I like that. Yeah,
that's the kind of mandatory training I'd be for. Yeah. You wouldn't even have to have a gun in the school, but just talk about it for Pete's sake. We tell kids how to use condoms and things like that.
Right.
Why not? And why not talk about guns? Give them the safety rules. Explain that this side there's a bullet that comes out that could hurt you, and this little thingy down here, if you touch at it, could make it go bang. And demystify it.
Well,
because it's a tool.
not just that. I mean, imagine if the kids were explained how the gun worked, and then they turned around and they were in a school with an active killer. Do you think that they'd be able to maybe save the life or save their own life if they got up close to the gun? They knew, okay, his finger's not on the trigger yet, so if I control the gun and his finger isn't on the trigger, then there's a chance I could live. Where otherwise they're giving up. I had somebody.
It just opens up more and more possibilities
it
for
gives
positive things.
Most definitely. I had somebody say to me, if I'm somewhere as there's an active killer, I'm just going to play dead. Okay, they know you're not dead. They didn't shoot you. So they're like, well, what do I do? What do I do? They've got a gun. I'm like, fight like you've never fought before. What's worth living for? What do you have out there that you enjoy, that you love, that you don't want to ever be left without, right? Your family, your wife, your husband, your kids, etc. Fight for that. Fight them.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh like I'm laughing at that individual that said that, because a lot of people feel that way, but they don't feel that they're able to do anything,
right,
because they're told from the flashy box that only law enforcement and military should do this. You're a civilian, you should crawl down and play dead.
Right.
And that's not the case. Name an animal on the planet that doesn't try to defend itself if it's back into a corner.
Yep.
Now the possum will lay down and play dead. So the possum may be an exception to that rule, but outside of that, every animal you corner it. And I've had many in my chicken coop. They will fight tooth and nail to get out of there,
yep,
and to preserve their way of life. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to take steps to defend yourself, especially your own children and your family.
Most definitely.
We have to not only protect our children and our family. We need to protect my son's daddy, or your children's daddy or their mom. That's important.
That brings up a good point too. When people tell me, well, it's New York State, I have a duty to retreat, but I don't have to retreat in my dwelling. Castle doctrine. I'm like, well, it's true, but just because the law says you may doesn't mean you must. And what's your ultimate goal? To stay alive, to support be able to be around to support your family, to be there for your family. That is your ultimate goal, not to win a gunfight, maybe. I mean, it's Russian roulette. You don't know if they're coming. There's 5 of them. They're on PCP. They're all armed, and you're a shitty shot. I mean, I do private lessons for people that need it. But, if you've got a situation like that, you don't know what's coming through that door. So why would you want to stand there and wait for them to, hurry up, I got dinner to make. Get in here so I can shoot you. That doesn't make sense. Get away if you can get away. That makes the most sense.
Well, my company is called the Trigger Pressers Union, and if I press trigger, my life changes. In the context of a dynamic critical incident, especially. Yep. And I don't want to change it, and I don't want to have to put my family through that if I don't have to, if I have a choice. And also, I'd rather not have the dead guy room in my house, and so it's important. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should, is one of the topics we talk about in the ICE courses. And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Definitely. We talked earlier about evading, barricading. Let's give ourselves the opportunity to be efficient. And when seconds count, police are minutes away. That's why we have the firearm. Well, man, if we can buy police those minutes and let them do the job, then that's even better. But that doesn't mean that I think that citizens shouldn't arm themselves and take proactive steps to protect their family. I think that's important. And that's part of that responsibility that needs to go into it. You talked about the extreme risk protection orders, and that's something here that's happening in Pennsylvania too with House Bill 2227. Mm-hmm. And those extreme risk protection orders are very Orwellian and thought police kind of thing. And they really, really, if they don't completely remove due process, it greatly reduces it. Yeah. And it puts law enforcement into jeopardy unnecessarily. We've seen this in other states now where people had bad encounters with one another, law enforcement and civilians, that didn't necessarily need to take place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary in a sense like that. Even with the whole confiscation thing, every other officer I've talked to, they're like, if the governor says go out and pick these guns up, yeah, that's not something that most people are going to want to do, because it's the Second Amendment right. It's tough on the mental aspect, but if we really go back to the Second Amendment, all right, the Second Amendment shall not infringe. It's the right to be able to have it. I heard a conversation on the radio the other day. They were talking about felonious acts. If you have any felonies on your record, then the thought process of having New York State another thing they're trying to pass is if you have a felony, as long as it's not a violent felony, then you can still keep all your rights, voting rights and gun rights and stuff. I struggle with it, because obviously somebody who's a felon who's done stuff wrong by the law could be doing stuff wrong with a gun. I kind of get that, but then again, I struggle and I go back and look, okay, what does the Second Amendment say? I don't see anywhere it says felony. I don't see, where those rights are
Well,
stripped from something they did like
if
that.
if someone did something and then they served their time and,
Right.
and they're a good citizen now,
Yeah.
I mean, they have every right to that.
Yep.
I truly believe that. I
agree.
actually have had a few instructor candidates that I've had to turn away because they did some really stupid stuff when they were younger, but now they're in their 40s. They're an active member of their community. They want to give back, but I can't do it because of policy of the parent organization. But those people do exist, and if you did your time and you're a member of society giving value to, you absolutely should have that right right put back. In the Allegheny County Sportsman's League, we've secured the services of Josh Prince, who's a lawyer here in Pennsylvania. He's actually, I believe, right now arguing at circuit court in D.C. against the bump stock bans.
Nice.
But he's been successful with getting a lot of people their rights back. And one of the things these extreme risk protection orders do is, by the due process being eroded or eliminated, people that might not necessarily have committed a crime are getting their guns taken away, or potentially could have their rights taken away from them. And again, if your answer is to take away the rights of someone who is law-abiding, then that we just can't have that in a constitutional republic. And whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty, I think most law enforcement and judges would agree it's probably better to let a guilty person go than an innocent person be incarcerated.
Yeah.
So I think that the thought of that, the innocent until proven guilty, needs to be in place.
If you look at the vehicle aspect of it, right? Somebody's driving a car and they have a DUI, DWI, or something to that expect. You don't turn around and start banning cars or putting more things in place for regular legal law-abiding citizens who are already following the laws so that they can't get it. Somebody gets a DUI. How many times do we see somebody who has a DUI and kills somebody and then they get out and they do it again and again and again? How many times are they going to end up committing that crime and kill people or hurt people before we actually enforce the laws that are already in the books? It's the same concept with the guns. If somebody does something wrong, I take it very seriously that I'm carrying a firearm. I'm carrying it for self-defense. The last thing I want to do is pull that gun out and use that gun, even when I'm on duty in law enforcement. I don't want to do that if I don't have to. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to try to use verbal judo, stay out of the situation, situational awareness, paying attention to my surroundings, etc., and use tools to my advantage to be able to thwart that effort without having to use deadly physical force. Because, like you said, you squeeze that trigger, there's an attorney attached to it, and your life will change. I mean, and even in the mindset of all of the different controversies that have happened in the past. I mean, you look at George Zimmerman, which I interviewed him, as you know. George Zimmerman, his whole life changed, and he was trying to do the right thing. Didn't do anything illegal, was still prosecuted, and obviously persecuted by a jury of public opinion. All that happened to his life. And then you've got Darren Wilson with Missouri, Ferguson, Missouri, with the Hands Up, Don't Shoot with Michael Brown, and even up to now, certain ones that are happening. So from 2013, really, the George Zimmerman case, that really is what blew everything up, and it's just everybody, it's anti-guns and this vile system of guns are bad, and how dare you use that to defend yourself against a criminal.
Well, again, the limitation of any law-abiding citizen's rights, in this case, Second Amendment rights, but maybe it's Fourth, Fifth Amendment rights, heck, even First Amendment rights. It doesn't matter. If there's a limitation on it and that is an elected official's response, then that's not a response that I'm interested in.
Misplaced.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Education and the exercise of rights is always the answer in a constitutional republic. And that's what we live in. Now, it might not be treated that way. It is treated like a democracy in many cases, but we need to realize and recognize as law-abiding citizens that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is there. It exists, and it does guarantee us certain rights, and it's there. Right. So we need to exercise those rights. And I always, this gets, people are kind of give me the stink eye when I say this, but we all love the American flag. My family has blood in that flag. Mm-hmm. And I will always display it properly. I will fold it properly. I will do everything I need to keep light on it at nighttime, and I will revere and honor that flag. And I've taught my son to do the same thing. But pledging allegiance to the flag as a civilian, maybe that's misplaced. maybe we as civilians should be pledging our allegiance to the Constitution, just like law enforcement and military do when they take their oath.
Yeah.
For the Constitution, the Constitution of the United States and to the republic for which it guarantees. Mm-hmm. I think that would be something to think about.
Yeah.
World would be a different place if I ran it, Matt.
Yeah. When you're running for elected office?
Never.
Nah.
Never.
See that? No. See, that's
I'm the guy behind the guy, man. That's me.
Well, it's like what? Behind every good man's a good wife or woman. Isn't that what it says?
I guess I should avoid absolutes, but I don't ever foresee any future possibility of running for any type of office. But I will offer my services to anyone who wants to do that and help educate them and give them my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough game, and I use the analogy, politicians will tell you what you want to hear no matter which side you're on, and that's I think that goes back to the beginning of our founding of our country. It's been like that, but we definitely need real people saying what they mean and meaning what they say, and taking our rights away one bill or one law at a time is not going to stop bad guys from doing bad things.
No, it's certainly not. And I think history has proven that pretty conclusively. The last thing I want to talk about as far as specific legislation, in Pennsylvania, we have House Bill 768, which is a Firearms Registration Act that's being brought up and discussed now. And I think it's important that my fellow Pennsylvanians write and call and email voicing their disdain against that. Registration has historically led to confiscation, and there's plenty of evidence to prove that notion. But I just did a phone interview with a local newspaper just about an hour and a half ago about this, and I said, that would be like me having to register every copy of the Bible I have in my house. I mean, it's my right to have that property, and why would I need to register that? What good does that do? Right. What is the outcome goal for that? If your outcome goal is to stop crime, well, you're only affecting law-abiding citizens. And as we've already established, criminals don't care about the law anyhow. That's kind of one of the distinguishing characteristics of being a criminal, right?
Yep.
So make sure you write your elected officials about House Bill 768, and then federally. HR 8, which is the bipartisan background check, which is a feel-good thing that's not going to change anything. And those that understand how the purchase of firearms go understand that it's a feel-good measure.
Yeah.
And man, if they dedicated that much time, effort, and energy to solving real problems and actually working together to solve problems, imagine what we could do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a scary time right now in our country's history. And we definitely need to stand up and do stuff. That's the hardest part. Is everybody complains about it. In New York State, Cuomo would have never gotten reelected if it was enough gun owners that stood up and actually voted him out. But we get people that say, well, it's they're not going to take my guns, and I really only use it for hunting. Well, eventually you're not going to be able to use it for hunting either, because if they take it from everybody, they're going to take it from you too. They're not just going to say it's only for hunting, and it has nothing to do with hunting. The Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting, and I wish people get that out of their mind. It is a right that we have to be able to keep and bear arms for self-defense and to keep the government from turning into a tyranny, period. And the hunting is just a fringe benefit of that. It's another thing that we use firearms for. It was a given back in the day. That's what they used to put food on the table. So we need to stand up. We need to make sure that we're out there, we're voicing our opinions, putting the pressure on these politicians, and respectfully, but letting them know that, no, this isn't the way you do it. This isn't going to help. This is just going to make it more cumbersome for people to defend themselves against bad guys who don't pay attention to your laws in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's important that we as gun owners, or heck, even if you're not a gun owner, just as a responsible citizen, let these people know that you vote first and foremost. If you don't vote, then start voting.
Vote, yeah.
And let them know, I even vote for dog catcher, dude. I am a super voter, man. I got a cape. Let them know that.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
It's important that we not only send emails, that's good. Picking up the phone, that's even a little bit better.
Yep.
But writing a letter, sending in a piece of paper with a stamp on it is huge.
Yeah.
And they kind of go off of this metric, the elected officials, and they'll say, well, if someone bothered to call, it's worth this percentage of my constituency. Mm-hmm. The emails are good, but they're probably valued a little less because they're so easy to do. But someone sends in a stamped letter, man, that's big. Mm-hmm. And one time I was in Harrisburg, and there was a particular legislator down there who was pushing some anti-gun bills. He took his name off of one. Now, he didn't speak out pro-gun or pro-liberty, but he kind of stepped away from that. And I asked him, I said, what made you take your name off of that? He says, 12 people sent me a letter. 12 people. 12 people.
Wow.
And that was enough pressure for him based upon that metric that he felt he should back off from it. So don't underestimate the power of putting a stamp on something, communicating. When you call their state office, but also call the local office.
Yep.
And if they're not there, leave a message. And then if you can, try and call back later. But as I said earlier, gun owners will trip over themselves to go touch a new SIG or a new, field a new Glock Gen 5s,
Yep.
but they won't pick up a phone or send an email or a text to a legislator. And I think that's misguided resource usage. So I think we need to be a little more active as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you talk that even on the other aspect of it when it comes to sports and how excited we get about sports, or we get about Black Friday and standing in line all hours of the night to get that TV at a discounted price. I mean, that's the kind of energy we need to put into politics, that we need to put into our elected officials, and making sure our elected officials are held accountable and that they understand that. And we're not going to put up with this. They work for us, and they need to do what's right by us and make the law enforcement allowed to be able to enforce the laws that are already in the books. And hopefully the judges uphold that and actually lay the law down against these bad guys, because as being foster parents, we see that all the time. Parents will get their kids back, and the next thing you know, the kids are with the mother in a cardboard box or living in a shelter because she fell apart again. And we knew right from the get-go, shouldn't have went back home. She wasn't ready. We know she wasn't ready, but the judge really, really wanted a reunification. And yeah, anyway, I went off on a tangent.
That's all right. We've dedicated a lot of time to this section, maybe a little more than what we originally allocated. But I think it's important, you and I are telling this to one another, and our viewers are going to see this. Yep. But it's important that we spread this gospel.
Definitely.
And it's, I've been trying to change the narrative. It's not a pro-gun thing or an anti-gun thing. It's a liberty thing. It's a rights and liberty thing. And with the Bill of Rights, it's a package deal.
Yep.
We have all these rights. They coexist with one another. Some support the other. A lot of people say without the second, you wouldn't have the first. So I like to package it as a group of rights that we have. And you are either pro-liberty or you are not. And if you are pro-liberty, then you are by default pro-Second Amendment. Yep. So I think changing that narrative, it certainly helped me maybe at least talk to some of my music and film clients that I have, which generally lean a little more away from the right. But it's been a good way to open up a dialogue. And I think if we just come out pro-gun, it does turn people off because of the conditioning that they have from the media and from TV shows and stuff. And we need to recognize that and do our best to navigate those waters so that we can come to a common ground, and that common ground should just be liberty. So consider that when you're making these arguments or stating these cases in front of new people. It's a liberty issue. Yeah. And we all are for liberty. We're all for the First Amendment. We're all for Fourth and Fifth Amendment. We should also be for the Second Amendment because it's a package deal.
Most definitely. Well said, Klint. Super. Well, I think that's a wrap for our first episode. And
one more thing I want to say.
Go for it.
I got to push in there. Tonight we're taping this, so this will have happened already by the time this airs. But there is a little girl in a nearby town who is the daughter of one of the people I've had the honor to train as an NRA instructor. And Kaylee Hicks was 9 years old when she received her Distinguished Marksmanship badge from the NRA Marksmanship Qual program. She is the youngest person on record as receiving the NRA pistol Distinguished Marksmanship rating. Wow. And so there's a little party tonight for her, and I just want to congratulate her on that, and I hope she continues with her career of shooting. She loves to shoot. I believe she's working on the rifle program now. Those of you that don't know, the NRA Marksmanship Qualification Program is something that is self-paced that you can do on your own. A lot of instructors will facilitate that and lead people through it, but it gives you, it's a goal-oriented course of fire, and you can earn ratings through it. And it's a program that's been running nonstop since 1903, which is pretty impressive. But awesome. Congratulations to Kaylee Hicks for earning her Distinguished Marksmanship badge in the NRA Pistol Marksmanship Qualification Program.
Congratulations, Kaylee. Well, that's all we have for you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, let everybody know about the show, and please make sure you definitely let us know what you want to see, what you want to hear, what you want us to blow up. Did I say blow up?
Mythbusters. Yeah.
I got a lot of tannerite.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
well, thank everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. From Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union, we bid you adieu.
Meet the Pressers.